Welcome back. I'm Barry Craig. For someone with diabetes, a blister on a toe can result in amputation, so diabetic shoes can literally be limb-saving. With me today are two Paducah experts at fitting diabetic footwear. They are Lauri Ezell and Elizabeth Vickery of Stone Lane. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Tell us about a diabetic shoe and how it's different from an ordinary shoe. And you brought some samples. If you'd like to pick one up and go through it, that would be great.
I would. A diabetic shoe is deeper and it's wider through here in the toe box to give the foot more room so that there's not any rubbing, on the outside. Also underneath there's no seams so that it would be irritating to the top of the foot, the toes. It has extra room back here, extra padding back in the back in this area. And also they come with heat molded inserts that we mold to the foot so that they go in the shoes and there's no friction on the bottom of the feet to cause calluses, which eventually could become ulcerations and what might come infected, and cause problems for a diabetic foot.
One of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not a doctor, but many people with diabetes suffer from neuropathy. The nerves are dead in their feet and they can't feel it.
Right.
And that's the problem with a blister. If you or I had a blister, we'd feel it, we'd put a Band-Aid on it, and that would be it. Plus, isn't also true that with diabetes that wounds don't heal as fast?
That's correct. And that's why it's very important for a diabetic to wear shoes all the time, because if they do have the neuropathy, they can't feel. So if they get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, they need to put their shoes on. Or even if they're in the shower, they need to sit when they're in the shower. Unless they have a shower shoe on, they shouldn't even stand in the shower. They need to have, that foot needs to be protected all the time. And especially important in the summertime when you feel like you need to wear a sandal or you can go barefoot. They really don't need to, because it can cause a lot of problems if they step on something and then it becomes infected.
Well, obviously, I would guess that a big part of your job is educating the diabetes patient. Are people with diabetes aware of just the things you're all talking about like that? Are people aware that they need to wear shoes all the time? Because now, who would think of that? Get up in the middle of the night, you stagger off to the toilet or whatever. Who would think of that?
Probably not. Diabetes education, is often limited to the medications and, what it takes just to keep a diabetic healthy. A lot of times the decrease in the circulation, like you said, if they do not wear a shoe and perhaps get some sort of sore, and then the decrease in circulation and then, the neuropathy prevents them from feeling it. And then they have poor circulation, which prevents the sore from healing. So they're not aware that they have the sore, they're not aware that it's a problem. And our job, is a lot of times is to kind of educate them on the things that they should be aware of, stuff they should be looking for, keeping their feet dry, keeping their feet clean and in between their toes, looking for any kind of sore or blister or ulceration and keeping that from getting infected.
I think maybe not everyone is aware of the fact that there is a benefit under Medicare for therapeutic shoes for people with diabetes. Tell us about that.
Okay, Medicare passed the therapeutic shoe bill. Any person that is a diabetic and then also has some sort of complication, it can be anything from poor circulation to an amputated toe or an ulceration on their foot, is eligible for to receive the diabetic shoes under the therapeutic foot bill. What that means is they can get a prescription from their physician, and then they can come into a place that sells diabetic shoes, such as Stone Lane, and we fit them with the diabetic shoes. We'll measure their foot, the length and the width, to be sure that they get the proper fit, and then we can order, the shoe, whichever style they, like in particular. Be sure that the fit is good. We do the custom heat molded inserts, so the insert fits snugly to their foot, the shoe fits snugly to their foot, and to minimize the complications that they can have from their diabetes. Medicare does pay for a pair of these shoes every calendar year, so starting January 1st, to the next January 1st, they would pay for 1 pair of shoes and 3 pairs of inserts. Medicare has a deductible, so they would be out the deductible or any co-insurance. Secondary insurances often pick up the balance from Medicare, so there's usually little or no cost to the beneficiary for these services.
Well, do you find that some people just are unaware of this benefit? With diabetes, people just, I didn't know about that.
A lot of people don't know about it. They're not aware of it. In turn, a lot of physicians maybe aren't as aware of the benefit, so they don't know where to send their patients, or they don't know what the coverage guidelines are. So we try to, through our advertising and people that come in the store, word of mouth, just kind of spread the word about the diabetic shoe benefit. So, people that are diabetic can take advantage of this service that's provided for them.
The shoes, and let's be frank, aren't exactly stylish. You wouldn't see these at a fashion shoe salon. So let's assume, and I think it would be fair to say that probably women care more about fashion footwear than men do. Certainly in my case it would be so. So let's assume a woman comes in who has diabetes and says, I'm not wearing those things. Do you ever get that? And how do you deal with someone who says, I'm not going to give up my fashion footwear for sensible shoes?
Well, we do have a lot of the ladies who come in who are concerned about the fashion part of it. And a reason why we've looked for different companies who we thought had more stylish shoes, so that people wouldn't feel, so much like it was a diabetic shoe. And we feel like the line that we have right now, which we've just been started carrying recently, looks more like a regular shoe. And some of the ladies' shoes look more, I wouldn't feel, funny wearing a pair of them. I mean, I think that they look like a normal shoe. Some of the things we've seen in the past are the squared toe, and everything, and they look like they're a heavy shoe. But
the
these
unisex design,
right.
The kind that was either for men or women, that kind of left a lot to be desired in style.
Well, and I think that's a realistic consideration, because a lot of people just don't want to wear those grandma shoes or gunboats or whatever the word you want to use for them. And 2 of those styles with the lace up there, those look pretty much like casual shoes that you see today.
Right.
And I think that's important to recognize that people, if they won't wear them, they won't do them any good. You also mentioned the heat molded inserts. How does that work?
The heat molded inserts, they look like this, and what we do is we have a heat gun and we start to heat it, and then we put the patient's foot, we have a foam piece of thing that we use, and we put their foot on it, and then it begins to mold to their foot. And then we put it in the shoes, and once they've worn them, the body continues to heat, and it continues to mold to the foot, but we start the process, at our store.
Sort of like a Birkenstock sandal with the
Right.
cork, I guess. Yeah. Now, these shoes could also be worn by someone who just wants comfortable shoes. Do people come in and say, I just want a pair of comfortable shoes?
Absolutely. We sell them as a therapeutic shoe as well. And they are very comfortable. Once people do try them on, they do, feel the difference.
Well, as someone wise once said, when your feet hurt, you hurt all over.
That's true.
And pain probably is a pretty good motivator to get you out of the more stylish footwear to things like that. You also mentioned, and that was interesting to me, about putting on your shoes when you got out of bed. Are there any other tips that you all give to people with diabetes for lifestyle changes like that you can think of?
To try to also match the seamless shoe with the seamless sock. A lot of time the little dog ear ends that are inside of your sock.
Like in the toe?
Like in the toe,
Yeah.
can cause problems, with the toe area getting a sore. You need to be sure that in between the digits of your toes is dry. Every time you take a shower, they want to be sure they spread apart the toes and dry inside the toes. You don't want any moisture collecting on the underside or in between the toes. To be sure they keep their nails filed off, and trimmed. You don't want to have any kind of ingrown toenail problems because of lack of of being able to heal itself. Check your feet nightly and around your ankles for any sign of an infection or a sore or scratch. And if you do have one, just keep an eye on it, to kind of be sure that it is healing properly and not getting worse.
Another thing you can do is to put talcum powder on your feet to make sure that they stay good and dry. Moisture is a problem for diabetics as well.
Have you seen an increase in the cases of diabetes in this area? I mean, Kentucky, I know, is one of the leading states for it. It's unfortunately a lifestyle thing. Have you all noticed that?
For the past 3 or 4 years, I'd say that the number of people that are coming in has increased. Now, I can't say for sure if they're becoming more aware of the coverage by Medicare for the diabetic shoes, or if it's just an increase in the cases of diabetes.
Now, I'm assuming it's lifestyle. It is in most places. We Kentuckians tend to like fried foods and lots of sugar and well, sedentary lifestyle is a big part of that. And of course, another thing too, it becomes almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. If your feet hurt, then you're inactive, and of course, inactivity is worse across the board on that. Are area physicians aware of, getting back to this, to the therapeutic shoe bill, are most of them aware of it?
I think that most of them are probably aware of it. They may not be aware of the specifics of it, so they just are more likely to say, here's a prescription, I know you can go and get these shoes. I'm not real sure about, the coverage or anything like that. But they do know that their patients have to have a prescription, and we work closely with a lot of the area physicians' offices in obtaining that, to be sure that their patients are covered under the therapeutic shoe bill.
Or are most of the physicians endocrinologists or general practitioners or orthopedists?
It has to be the physician that treats you for your diabetes. We have to get certification that you are a diabetic and that you do have one or more of the additional problems associated with diabetic feet. So it has to be the physician that treats you for your diabetes.
Well, in talking about footwear, do you talk about other aspects of the disease? I know that diabetes affects the eyes, the heart, and the feet. Do you talk about other parts of it with patients?
We just try to kind of promote an overall being aware of the problems of a diabetic and, making sure that they stay on top of that. We don't often delve into any of the other areas of it because that's not, of course, our specialty, so we don't want to.
Right, I understand that. Aren't there two types of diabetes, A and B, and what do you know the difference? 1 and 2. What are the differences? Do you know?
A juvenile, like a type 1 is a juvenile diabetic. They were born with diabetes, probably, or it manifested itself very early in their life. Type 2 is adult onset diabetes, which is the most common type of client that we have.
Yeah. So most of your clients are at least middle-aged or older.
At least.
Yeah. Well, again, the awareness factor of not having any in my family. The first time I was aware of this was a movie a few years ago with Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason, and I forget the name of what it was about. But anyway, they had the Tom Hanks character had not been around his dad for years, and so he went to his dad when his dad got divorced. And the Jackie Gleason character, he was sitting there at the kitchen table with his shoes and socks off, and his feet were purple. His son was, my God, what is this? And his dad said, I don't know, I never really noticed. And because he couldn't feel, so he goes to the hospital and they amputate his feet. Are patients that you come to, aware of the danger of amputation that they face from this?
I'd say it's a mix. Some of them are and some of them aren't. More oftentimes it's an adult onset, so they've kind of just been diagnosed with it recently a lot of times, or they haven't lived with it very long, so they don't really know a lot about the seriousness. I don't think they think about the seriousness of the problem. For most people, for me, it would just be, I can't have pie anymore, or spaghetti or bread. I would be so concentrated, I think, on that it would, I wouldn't go ahead and realize the seriousness.
And I think you're absolutely right. My old professor in college had adult onset, and I remember he would go and give himself an insulin shot, and he would he would do it something when I was over visiting at his house. It was just, okay, he'd go, he'd say, excuse me for a minute, he would go give himself a shot and come back, and that's all there was to it. And the other part, I don't know if he was aware of the other part or not. Do you all go out in the community and give presentations, and have you done that yet?
We have
Awareness?
been to like a lot of assisted living or retirement communities and done some presentations on.
We also do health fairs, and bring our products and discuss it, with
Well, when you
people.
go to, say, an assisted care place, what is your program? What do you talk about?
A lot about the things that we've talked about here today, just about, the dangers of the diabetic foot and being aware that they are aware of the therapeutic foot bill, that this benefit is available to them, and the steps that they need to take to be sure that they can receive these services under their Medicare benefit. So we try to just, the people that are interested, to help them to know what they need to do in order to take advantage of this benefit.
Well, now, do you all handle all the paperwork for the patients?
Yeah, we can.
That's got to be a big blessing, because I think that's the part of it. It's like, I wouldn't know what to do, where to send it. So you all,
Right.
and that's got to be a big load off patients' minds
is.
to deal with that. Now you talk about health fairs. Where do you go for health fairs?
Various places in the community. We're getting ready to go to Western Baptist is having one tomorrow. We're going to be there with all our products, to share with the people in the community some of the things that we've learned, to share with them.
Now this program, of course, will air perhaps a little bit later, so
Yeah.
tomorrow might not be tomorrow, so we're try to
Absolutely.
remember that. But so you're out and about quite a bit.
Yes, we are.
Quite a bit with this. And I think one thing, you all are able to spend time with patients, whereas doctors often can't. They've got a busy schedule, and do patients say, gee, you spent 30 minutes with me and my doctor didn't have time to do that? Do you hear that a lot? Yeah.
We do have a lot of one-on-one with them, so we're able to, really discuss a lot of these things that we've talked about today with them.
Do people see you all by appointment, or do you take walk-ins, or both?
We take walk-ins.
But would it be best to have an appointment, would you say?
Not necessarily. I mean,
There's generally someone there anytime the doors are open that will be able to assist with the fitting of diabetic shoe.
Now, you talk about the fitting. How long does that? Most people, they go to a store and they just simply say, give me a size 12 or whatever, and they go on. But it's a much more involved process. I mean, you all actually take time. Describe of a patient comes in and wants to buy a pair of these shoes. What is the process when you greet them? Then what do you do?
first of all, we take a look at the different shoes that we have, and we ask them, which styles that they prefer. But then we also talk to them about some of the problems that they might be having. Some of our shoes are better, like if they have a lot of swelling, there might be a particular shoe we might steer them toward, they would be better for that.
Now, is Velcro better for that? For
yes, it
edema?
is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that way you can just adjust it.
Adjust it, because by the end of the day, your foot is more swollen than it is when you get up in the morning.
And that's true of everyone. Yeah.
It sure is.
In fact, I once saw it said a tip was if you're shopping for shoes, shop late in the afternoon, because
That's
when
right.
your feet are at their maximum size. So you sort of give them like a mini foot exam.
Right. Then we do down with them, and then we do take a look at their feet to see if they have any problems like bunions or calluses or anything like that that needs to be further examined by a physician. Then we will measure them.
Which they probably
size.
haven't had done in years anyway.
Right.
People always say, I haven't had done since I was a kid. you know?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. So
yeah.
we do take our time to measure.
Now that's another issue. Okay, let's say that a person comes in and says, well, I wore a size 7 since I was in high school, and this you measure them a 9.
Right.
What's the psychology dealing with that? Do you run into that sometimes?
We do actually.
Often, yeah.
So what do you say?
You have to convince them. Well, let's just try this,
Or every brand isn't always made the same.
Right.
And this particular measuring stick is designed for this brand of shoe.
Right,
That's
and it
an
is.
approach that we like to take a lot. So.
Which is true.
Which is true.
Right.
Which
It
is
is.
true, yes.
Right. And then obviously try on the shoe and see. Of course, I know that oftentimes that the shape of a foot needs to match the shape of the shoe, and
It does.
some people that you've just got the wrong shaped foot for that particular shoe.
Right.
And I think that's where you all can come in, and whereas, you know, in a retail setting, you often don't get that. So people should be prepared to spend 15, 20 minutes with you at least.
At least.
For the initial measuring, and then the fitting oftentimes comes later because we don't always have the size or the width in the particular style that they want. So then whenever we actually fit them with the shoe, that's probably another 20 minutes we spend with them.
And then we want to make sure that we get the heat mold inserts. That takes a few minutes to do those. There's 3 pair that you get when you purchase a pair of shoes.
And that's also part of the Medicare bill.
It
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
and they're to be changed out of the shoes every 4 to 6 months, or unless they look more worn. They want to.
Now, are people aware of that they need to change them out? It seems to me they would, well, just leave it in there until you just leave it in there.
We always advise them, of course, you know, here's 3 pair, you need to, this is supposed to last you a year, so you need to be sure you change these out every 4 months, just to kind of remind them. But I think initially when they come in, they don't expect to be given 3 pairs of inserts. They just kind of think the shoe is it, like
Well,
the
it
insert
is.
that comes from
You
the
go
store.
buy a pair of shoes at the mall, and
Right.
you don't think about the inserts. In fact, I think we were talking on the phone. A friend of mine bought a pair of really nice New Balance shoes. Had no idea the insole was removable. Really? I said, try it. And she did, and it came out. Now, these shoes also will accommodate inserts that, like a podiatrist to make orthotics,
Right.
major arch supports, things like that.
They do.
And that's another reason for the depth that you can
That's right.
accommodate. Because I would imagine people with diabetes and obviously might have to have arch supports and things like that too. And that you talk about that with them
Yes,
as well.
yeah.
So then, of course, follow-up is important for any, if you get diabetic footwear anywhere, you need to follow up for the patient, right?
Right. You need to follow up with, we kind of like for them to follow up with us if they have any problems, if they notice that their foot is not fitting in there just right, or if there develops a problem with the shoe that we can address. Of course, we want them to make us aware of any of those problems. The thing about replacing the shoe every year, that kind of gives us a chance to, a year later, you know, maybe if their foot looks worse than it did last year, then we can notice that. If we notice that the shoe has worn in an unusual fashion, maybe they have some gait problems, then we can also address that at the time. So it, you know, by doing this every year, and they're eligible for this benefit every year, then that kind of lets us keep an eye on them as well to be sure that everything's going okay with their feet.
So you all see yourself very much as part of the healthcare team, working with physicians and others
Absolutely.
as well. And if you think about it, doctors are not trained in shoe fitting. They're trained in orthopedists and bones and endocrinologists and that and all that. And I think that's now we were talking earlier, you all are in the process of becoming certified because Medicare is changing its regulations to require the dispensers of this footwear to be certified.
Right.
So that process is with the,
It's the ABC is who we're dealing with right now to
which is
become
the
certified.
American Board for Certification
Yes.
in Orthotics and Prosthetics. To be certified,
Right.
which will sort of make you all unique in the area, or one of the few, I guess. And the reason that was because people were selling these shoes literally mail order, the
Right.
back of the car, a lot of problems with it. And I think we were talking before the program started that these are well-made shoes, obviously, but if they're poorly fitted or improperly fitted, they can cause damage.
Yes, they can.
And one thing I was talking to someone said that, you know, you think a shoe is the only item of clothing you wear that can hurt you. If a shirt's too tight, well, a pair
Right.
of pants, you lose some weight. But that can actually hurt you on that. In the time we held up, what do we haven't talked about? Can you add anything you'd like to talk about before?
One other thing I would add to it is we also offer compression hosiery. Swelling is a big problem for a diabetic patient. And
Now explain compression hosiery, how that works.
it's to recirculate the blood flow in the legs.
So it fits very tightly?
Yes, it does.
And you have to be specially fitted for that too?
Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
we do that in our store.
Yeah.
It's going to promote circulation. You know, a lot of the problem with diabetic foot is poor circulation. So the compression hosiery is going to improve the circulation. Then in turn, you're not going to have as much problem with the neuropathy or with the ulcerations. If you can increase the circulation in the foot and the legs, then it's
Right.
going to decrease on a lot of the problems that can happen to a diabetic.
Is exercise important for someone with diabetes?
Yes.
It is important. You need to have the right shoe.
Well, see, and
Before
again,
you-
well,
you
the
do.
reason for that question was obviously this all works together.
Right.
The compression hosiery, the special shoes keep you active, and the more active you are, that's got to be the better for you. Any tips on I mean, obviously you can't prevent the disease; it happens. Do y'all talk about things like diet, and are they aware of that you're not supposed to eat, as you said, pie and all that stuff?
Oh
Do y'all
yeah,
talk
they
about
all
that?
come in complaining about I can't have this anymore, and I love it so much. And I think that's the part that we don't cover as much because they concentrate on that a little bit more. The medication and the diet is something that their doctors usually stress again with them. So we try to pick up a little bit more of the things that the doctors maybe don't have enough time to cover, or you know, they don't know enough about the shoe, the construction of the shoe and stuff to go over that with their patients. So we try to fill in, you know, maybe a little bit more of what they don't cover in their office.
So, compression hosiery and the footwear, anything else that you carry in the diabetic line?
We carry the diabetic socks if they're not interested
Now,
so
what are
much in the-
diabetic socks? Yeah, I've heard of those. What are those?
Well, they have a form of compression in them. They're not going to have a really tight seam, so it's going to keep, you know, a lot of times people that have swelling in their legs, as many diabetics do, will have a little line where their sock is. So it's going to, you know, try to take care of a lot of the circulation problems. It's not going to have that big seam around the top, and then it's not going to have any toe seams or heel seams that can cause a problem with the sore on their foot that, of course, can in turn lead to bigger issues.
So, conceivably, somebody could come and buy a pair of these shoes and then go to a store and buy a pair of socks and actually mess themselves up without realizing it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think patient awareness is so important here because it just in talking to you all, it's like the thing about wear your shoes and get out of bed. Who would have thought of that? I mean, really. And that can literally be a tip that can save a limb. And again, in doing some research on this, I was not aware that this is a serious problem with it and can be. And well, we're out of time. Thank you all for joining us. My guests today were Lauri Ezell and Elizabeth Vickery of Stone Lane. I'm Barry Craig, and we will see you next time.